You're listening to The Wells Report, which will return in 1 minute. The Wells Report returns in 30 seconds. North to south, coast to coast, around the world, this is the Wells Report. Good morning, I'm John David Wells. It's Monday, it's April 8th, year of our Lord, 2024. I hope you had a great weekend. What do we do on this broadcast? Glad you asked. We report the news, honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We make commentary. Commentary is not news. Commentary is opinion. Yours and mine. Let's compare. Let's debate. It's news, analysis, commentary, and debate. It is the Wells Report. It is Eclipse Day. In the North American continent, we will see a total solar eclipse. And what's really cool is that this time around, we here in North Texas get to see all of it. We get to see totality today. Okay, let's try to speak English. We're going to see totality today. That means that the moon will completely obscure the sun. And that means we're going to actually get to see the whole kit and caboodle, and I can hardly wait. It's going to be fun. USA Today reports it like this. After years of buildup and anticipation, the great North American eclipse will occur this afternoon, somewhere around 1 o'clock, at least in our time zone. The rare event when the shadow of the moon plunges a narrow strip of land into darkness in the middle of a day is the astronomical experience like no other that will be unusually acceptable to millions of people, like 32 million, in fact. That is, of course, if the weather cooperates. So far, we got a pretty clear day today. There are a few clouds, but not too many. And so we might be able to see everything. The total eclipse will begin in Mexico at 11:07. That's Pacific Daylight Time. It'll cross into Texas at 1:27 p.m. Central Time. It will end in Maine at about 3:35 p.m. The partial eclipse will last for a while longer. Even if you're not in the path of totality, you won't see the full eclipse. You might see a percentage of it. To find out exactly when the eclipse will be happening in your area, you can search USA Today's database by zip code for a viewing guide. And so you can do that. This is going to be cool. This is really going to be cool. It's the last time we'll see one for like 20 years. So what's out there? Well, ABC has a fantastic report on that. And what I want to do is show that to you here on the Wells Report. So let's take a look at this ABC News report.
A rare natural phenomenon is on the horizon. A total solar eclipse will soon take over the skies in some parts of the country.
We will all be able to see this phenomenon together under the sky we all share.
The moon will completely block the face of the sun, creating sudden darkness for about 4 minutes and a temperature drop of roughly 10 degrees Fahrenheit.
What's going to happen is when the moon gets in between the Earth and the sun, the moon's shadow will fall on the Earth.
31 million Americans across 13 states in the path of totality, which is the track of the moon's shadow across Earth's surface. The 115-mile wide path will begin in Texas and end in Maine.
It is one of the few astronomical phenomena where you get to see it, you get to feel it, and you get to hear it, because you might feel a temperature drop. You might feel the wind pick up or die down.
Any animals around will also likely change their behavior.
You get to hear it, especially in areas that experience totality, because you get to hear insects, birds, other people around you getting really excited.
And if you're in the path of totality, keep your eyes peeled for any planets.
You'll have Jupiter and Mercury to the left of the sun or to the east, and then you've got Venus, Saturn, and Mars to the west of the sun and moon. So whether or not you see those objects will kind of depend on cloudiness, how bright your sky is, how dark it is.
You may not want to miss this one because the next total solar eclipse in the lower 48 states is expected 20 years from now. And if you are planning on sky watching, remember to wear eclipse glasses with a special solar filter to prevent any damage to your eyes.
Yeah, that's important. You know, a welder's mask works really, really well for these things, but if you don't have one of those, you can find these solar eclipse glasses everywhere. Essentially, what they are is exposed film. It's exposed film that's been developed. It's very, very dark, and you can look right through there without damaging your eyes, which is very cool. Now, speaking of people that normally can't see things, for example, the blind, there is a way to do that too, and it comes to us from Harvard University. Harvard University came up with this very cool way for the blind to see sort of a total eclipse. Check this out, courtesy, like I said, of CNN.
Joining us now is Kiki Smith. She works for a community development organization in Rochester, New York. They're going to be hosting a free eclipse watch party using the devices. Kiki, you yourself are blind. Can you demonstrate how this device works?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us on today. We received these light sound devices from Alison Biarilla and her team at Harvard. And the device plugs into via the audio jack to a set of speakers or a set of headphones for private listening. But when you turn the device on and you turn the unit over, it is sensitive to light. So that we'll use cell phone flashlight, for example. The high pitch of a flute will represent the sound of light pre-eclipse, or hopefully at 2 o'clock here in Rochester, New York. You'll hear this high pitch. There we go. And as the light wanes, those tones will decrease until the deepening of a clarinet sound, and eventually the sound of crickets, which represents totality. For the 3 minutes and 38 seconds, we'll have that silence. And at 3:23 and a half, the clarinet will begin again, and the light will wax, and we will begin to hear those notes ascend.
How very, very cool. That is very cool. I'm glad Harvard is doing something besides indoctrinating people to hate America. Isn't that wonderful? So did I say that out loud? Boy, am I sarcastic. I'm just a sarcastic guy. But this is going to be very cool, and I'm very, very glad that they worked their way through to find an opportunity for everybody, even people without sight, to be able to see the solar eclipse. That is very, very cool. Weather-wise, the best spot for viewing the eclipse today is expected to be in northern New England, specifically the northern portions of Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. This is according to the Weather Prediction Center. Like I said, we've got beautiful skies here. Don't know whether clouds are going to move in, but we'll see. The Weather Service Forecast Office in Caribou, Maine, confirmed this by saying, despite being a relatively stormy period of the year, somehow we scored a nearly perfect day to observe the eclipse under sunny to mostly sunny skies during the mid-afternoon hours. Elsewhere, clear skies are possible from northern Arkansas to central Indiana, the Weather Service said, but potential for high clouds could impact the viewing there. As predicted, skies were cloudy across much of central and southern Texas this morning, a precursor to more potentially severe weather that could rumble across the state later on today. Cross your fingers. Let's see. This morning, both San Antonio and Austin reported overcast skies, while Dallas-Fort Worth had mostly cloudy skies, according to the National Weather Service. That's why I live in Fort Worth, Texas, because what happens in Dallas doesn't happen in Fort Worth because Texas is so large, it's quite a ways away. Anyway, what I've got here is I've got a beautiful, beautiful sky. I was just out there the other minute or two. A high probability of poor eclipse viewing conditions continues for nearly all of south central Texas from midday today. We live in North Texas. We'll see farther north. Folks in big cities in the path of totality like Indianapolis and Cleveland, we're anxiously hanging on every forecast update in Indianapolis. The forecast looked good. Only some scattered high clouds were expected during the eclipse. Weather Service meteorologist Joseph Neild says we're cautiously optimistic that things are looking pretty good for us. In Cleveland, unwelcome light rain was reported this morning, but improving weather was predicted for the eclipse with partly sunny skies expected. Poor viewing conditions expected from Missouri and Kansas, according to AccuWeather. Weather.com said that areas with the highest chance of rain include parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas. The Weather Prediction Center also said clouds may impede viewing across Ohio, Northwest Pennsylvania, and parts of New York. Multiple rounds of severe thunderstorms could develop from early afternoon from today through tomorrow across a large portion of Texas into South Oklahoma, Southwest Arkansas, and West Louisiana, according to the Storm Prediction Center. This was over the weekend. A few tornadoes, scattered large to very large hail, and isolated severe gusts will be available if you are keeping track of the wind, which won't affect the solar eclipse. The 2024 solar eclipse will shroud much of the U.S. in darkness, leaving many people to wonder, is it safe to drive during the solar eclipse? Now, normally, most everybody has automatic headlights in their cars, so you really don't have to worry that much. In other words, your lights will come on when the eclipse happens. But because it's happening in the middle of the day, it might overamp a couple of people's vision receptors. They'll turn sideways and turn into a jukebox. Okay, that's a Robin Williams bit from years and years and years ago, but it's actually quite likely. So if you're going to be on the roads during the eclipse, bad idea. You might find yourself in a position where people are doing very strange things. Of course, it's safe to drive during the eclipse, says USA Today, as long as you don't look up at the sky. AAA is telling viewers to be focused on the road if they're operating a car during the solar eclipse. But automobile insurance companies are advising Americans who want to safely view the total eclipse to, quote, find a safe place to park, not on the side of the road or highway, away from other traffic, then wear your eclipse glasses, says Axia Diaz, a spokesperson for AAA. Now, you've heard a lot of people talking a lot about these solar eclipse viewing glasses. There is a way to actually see the solar eclipse without them, without looking at the sun itself, which will burn out your eyeballs. The way to do it is really cool. I learned this, I think I learned it in junior high. You know, they did have junior high then. You know, we had these small little blackboards that we kept at our desk and we wrote. That's not true. So the way you do that is this. There's a couple of different ways to do it. One, you can take a couple of pieces of just plain old white paper. I don't have any around there. But what you can do is you can take a pin or a needle, the bigger the better, and poke a hole in that paper. Just poke a hole in the paper. And then hold it perpendicular to where the sun is in your particular part of the sky. And then look at another white piece of paper that's on a table or something like that. And what will happen through the incredible magic of optics is that you will see an upside down version of the eclipse on that other piece of paper. And so the sun is back here and you're holding the paper up here and you can see the eclipse. And sometimes, depending on how you do this, and maybe you can experiment with it before the actual eclipse happens, depending on how big the hole is, et cetera, you can actually see details of the sun, like sunspots or something along that line. That works really, really well. It really does. I know. You're sitting there going, really? Yeah. And some people will, say, for example, take a big, long box. Say, for example, the kind of box that you get your golf clubs in. And if you put a hole in one end of the box, about the size of an aspirin tablet, maybe a little larger, and then put some white paper there and just cut a viewing port in there, you'll be able to see that very clearly. You can see that very clearly. A couple of ways to look at the eclipse. Do not look at the sun. Don't do that. It would be bad. Okay? Because then you'd have to depend on one of those sound things, to be able to, quote, hear the eclipse as the pitches change, et cetera, et cetera. So there you go. A couple of different things on the eclipse. Do not look at the sun. Don't do it. It's bad for you. This is the Wells Report. Thanks very much for joining us on Eclipse Day. We'll be back with more coming up in just a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Good morning. This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service. I trimmed my hair pancake over the weekend. Did a great job. Hair pancake. I was very happy with it today, and I've noticed that the hair on the top of my head creates an eclipse from the shine that would normally be there if that hair wasn't in place. Speaking of things in the sky that you can see, a piece of a Boeing airplane that was flown by Southwest fell off in various forms at various moments. It was an engine cowling, and Boeing having a really tough time these days with their jets falling off, pieces falling off, et cetera, et cetera. So if you may be watching, say, for example, an airliner flying over and so on, you might want to keep your eyes on it. And this is why. Check this out.
New video of an engine cover that fell off a Boeing 737 operated by Southwest Airlines during takeoff in Denver last night. Listen to the pilot and air traffic control working together to land the Houston-bound plane safely back at Denver International Airport.
3695, no problem. Flight present heading. Do you need to run checklist? Yeah, we're going to need some time. For now, everything's okay. And we don't even know the nature of it, but apparently several passengers and flight attendants heard something loud hit the wing. So we're just going to take our time, get set up, and be ready to go. Thank you. Alpha 3695, no problem. You can expect vectors. Just keep me advised of the situation and let me know if you want to declare an emergency, but I assume we'll probably do that anyways. Yeah, I'll get back to you. Stand by.
I mean, pretty extraordinary, right? The images you're seeing there while they're taxiing for takeoff, presumably, because we heard our Pete Muntean earlier say that the plane actually made it about 10,000 feet in the air before it was able to turn around and then did land safely there. In a statement to CNN, Southwest Airlines apologizes for the inconvenience, but said their highest priority is the safety of their customers. The FAA is investigating the incident, which is the latest in a string of issues to plague Boeing aircraft.
Isn't that great? Southwest says we apologize for the inconvenience to our passengers and anybody watching this particular report because our planes are falling apart in the air. And that is certainly inconvenient. I can imagine the inconvenience of having parts of your aircraft flying off as you lift in the air or flying around. That would be damn inconvenient. I mean, when you get right down to it. So what would you do if you saw something like that? I've been flying a very long time, and I've seen two incidents, not involving Boeing aircraft, but I've seen two incidents that really, what the hell was that? Anyway, I just saw a bunch of balloons just go up through my screen. I wonder who put those. Anyway, so one was a fuel leak, and I said it was about a gallon a minute fuel leak, et cetera, on top of the wing, and reported it to the flight attendant. And the other time, one of the trim tabs that keeps, you can trim out an airplane. I mean, they have weight issues. I mean, and sometimes the weight's too far forward, sometimes the weight's too far back. And airplanes have these trim tabs that the pilots adjust to fly the aircraft in its present state on a straight and level way. So one of them was stuck up as we were flying off the runway, and I brought that up as well. They fixed it before it was a problem. Anyway, there is one other thing about this. If you're watching airplanes fly over and you can determine whether or not it's a Boeing aircraft or what have you, you might want to be very careful and keep your eyes on it in case something flies off. Because astronomers and weather people will tell you that indeed a piece of that aircraft will indeed obscure the sun, creating what is a very momentary eclipse of the sun. And if, by the way, you see this piece and it doesn't appear to be moving, just getting bigger, that means it's about to hit you in the face. And those same experts will tell you that your solar eclipse glasses will be ineffective if a piece of an airplane flies off and hits you in the noggin. Getting back to the hair pancake. So I just wanted to let you know that those glasses are good, but if a piece of airplane flies off directly over you, won't be that effective to keep you from. Yeah. This is the Wells Report. I want to thank you very much for being a part of our broadcast as we bring this to you here on this wonderful Monday on the Eclipse Day. And we'll be back with more coming up in just a couple of moments as we continue. Stay put.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Greetings, John David Wells at your service. Welcome to the broadcast today. I surely do appreciate the time that you spend with us whenever you find us. And you can find us not necessarily every 20 years. You can find us every day, Monday through Friday, between 9 and 11 a.m. Central Time. Now, that being said, I'm going to be off a couple of days in the next couple of weeks. And so keep that in mind as time goes by, because indeed there will be some issues with this broadcast moving forward in the next couple of weeks. More details are coming up pay attention to your social media because I'll be putting that up when I know more about it. Okay, so there you go. It is the Wells Report, and we are glad that you are here. By the way, if you find value in this broadcast, by all means, please do share it with your friends. Subscribe to it. That would be very cool. Subscribe to it, hit the notification button so that you know when we're on the air. We occasionally do special reports. I'd like you to see those because if it's important, I'm going to be putting it up on the social media around you, and I'd like you to see those. So make sure you do that. Give us that. Give us those thumbs ups. Those really help us out a lot. And if you'd like to support the show financially, you can look at the small crawl down there because that basically says everything I just said. Plus, you get a chance to support the show financially by going to Patreon, Patreon, patreon.com/The Wells Report. You can give us a couple of bucks, I don't know, every month or so. And that's all you need. A couple of bucks works great. It helps out a lot, and we appreciate it. So, over the weekend, there were things that happened in Israel, Gaza, etc. Live updates now from USA Today. The Israeli military said over the weekend it has withdrawn most ground troops from the Gaza Strip after completing a withering offensive in the southern city of Khan Yunis, leaving one brigade there in the battered enclave. 6 months after the war began, the military began reducing numbers in Gaza since the start of the year under growing global pressure to ease the impact of the war on civilians, if there are any there. The drawdown has also provided relief for reservists, many of whom have been away from their homes and jobs since Israel's offensive was launched within hours of the October 7th Hamas-led attack on Israel. It comes as global outrage intensifies over the tens of thousands of deaths. That information provided by Hamas itself, and they blame the Israeli military on that. There is a report on all of this from CBS News. We'd like to bring that to you here on the Wells Report because it pretty much sums up just exactly what's going on in that region that we have been reporting on since its inception, October 7th. Here's the report.
President Biden wrote letters to the leaders of Egypt and Qatar and urged them to get commitments from Hamas to agree to a deal, a message the president also emphasized in that call to Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu as he presses for an immediate ceasefire.
Did you threaten to stop military aid to Israel? I asked them to do what they're doing.
President Biden is facing increasing pressure from a growing list of Democratic lawmakers to put new conditions on military aid to Israel. Vermont Senator Peter Welch says he's urging the White House to do more.
The question here, if we're going to do something about it and try to rein in these civilian deaths, I think comes to the president. And do we stop sending munitions to Israel that are used in Gaza?
A new letter Friday signed by nearly 40 Congress members asked the administration to reconsider its decision to authorize the transfer of a new arms package to Israel, approved long before the Israel-Hamas war, which includes billions of dollars in bombs and fighter jets. Senator Ben Cardin of Maryland chairs the Foreign Relations Committee.
We have conditionality on all aid to all countries, that it has to be used for the intended purpose, chain of command, things like that. So there's already protection on all programs that the United States participates with on arms sales.
The debate among lawmakers comes as the White House warns it's looking for concrete, verifiable changes from Israel to make sure the safety of civilians and aid workers is top of mind. Dave Hardin is a former mission director for USAID in Gaza and the West Bank.
What's more important is not the accountability of those that were involved in that incident. It's that the system structurally works so that there is trust by the humanitarian community that when they've deconflicted the movement of assistance, that they don't get shot.
Now, in addition to the strike that killed the World Central Kitchen workers, Israel bombed an Iranian consulate this week in Syria, killing 7, including 2 senior generals. U.S. officials say both Israel and the U.S. are convinced Iran will soon retaliate. That raises concerns about further escalation in the region.
That is completely correct, and that is something we're all waiting for, is that other shoe will doubtless drop at some point. How will that affect the circumstances in Israel? We don't know yet. All we can say is that Iran was very upset about the Syrian attack that was executed against the Hamas leadership and Iran leadership in Syria. So that is going to be an issue. By the way, getting back to that brigade that's going to be left, the Nahal Brigade includes a few thousand soldiers tasked to prevent Palestinians from returning to northern Gaza and conducting precision strikes across the country. It was not clear what impact, if any, the withdrawal would have on the long-threatened incursion into the southern city of Rafah. The White House, National Security spokesperson John Kirby told ABC News the withdrawal was about the rest and refit for these troops, not necessarily that we can tell indicatively that there might be a cease in operations. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said the planned assault on Rafah is needed to eliminate Hamas. President Joe Biden and most of the world have urged Israel to jettison the plan, saying it would threaten the lives of too many of more than 1 million Palestinian citizens who have fled Rafah from fighting elsewhere in Gaza. Israelis' offensive, launched after the attack by Hamas on Israel October 7th, initially focused on northern Gaza, which has been left in ruins. In recent weeks, the focus has been on southern Gaza, with similar results. More than 250 hostages were seized. 1,200 people, or 1,300 people, depending on who you pay attention to, were killed during the October 7th attack, according to Israel. More than 33,100 Palestinians have been killed in the Israeli offensive, according to the Hamas Health Ministry in Gaza. We point out bias. We also point out fact in all of this. And once again, USA Today is a bit biased on this, although this is relatively clean from a standpoint of opining in the middle of a news article. But USA Today makes a mistake here. What they say is more than 33,100 Palestinians have been killed in the Israeli offensive, according to the health ministry in Gaza. It's the Hamas health ministry in Gaza. It's amazing they left out that one word. Once again, as I keep trying to make sure that you understand, the science of propaganda is not what you add to a story, it's what you leave out. Saying that the Hamas health ministry, or leaving out the word Hamas and just using health ministry, that's dishonest journalism. And it's sad. And it's too bad that we live in such a world where the news is essentially, for most cases, at least many cases, is twisted to suit a political advantage. And that's one of the reasons why you're here. So when we look at all of this and we say, okay, so what's Israel doing? Well, they're preparing for some kind of an attack from Iran itself, doubtful, or Iran proxies in the region, more likely, specifically Hezbollah. Hezbollah is in Lebanon. That's to the north of Israel. So Israel's right here on the coast of the Mediterranean. And then there's Lebanon right above that. And that has been a place where terrorist groups like Hezbollah, Hamas, etc., what they've been doing is they've been using that part of Lebanon as a stage for attacks against northern Israel, and depending on the munitions that they're using, deeper into the Israeli country. There's also something else. There was an awful lot of people, me included, that said, what about the hostages? What's going on with the hostages? The families in Israel, they're obviously upset that Israel has been unable to get those hostages out. Those hostages represent an insurance policy for Hamas leadership not to be immediately rolled up in various operations by Israel, returned to Nuremberg for a return of the Nuremberg trials for crimes against humanity, and then executed. They realize that the longer they keep those hostages, the longer they get to breathe air. And so that's what one of the situations is. Now, Egypt is working on a deal to get the hostages released. But part of that deal is going to be guaranteeing safety for Hamas leadership. Is that something that you agree with or disagree with? 817-379-2172 is our telephone number. Specifically, Egypt, this according to USA Today, their live updates. Egypt said it's preparing to host a new round of talks aimed at reaching a ceasefire and a hostage release deal, which both Israel and Hamas said they would attend. Hamas leaders issued a statement saying that they have met with Egyptian officials in Cairo and reiterated their position that no hostages will be freed until Israel agrees to a permanent ceasefire and removes all of its troops from Gaza. This according to the Times of Israel. That's not going to happen. Israel is not going to remove all of its troops from Gaza. There was a ceasefire in place before October 7th that was blown apart by Hamas, and Israel is not going to make the same mistake twice. So consequently, there is an issue here. Okay, we're not going to release the hostages until Israel gets out. Israel is not going to get out. They are not going to stop their operations or entertain even a ceasefire until those hostages are released. And that is the impasse that we've been dealing with. Pope Francis said he was going to meet today with families of some of the hostages, according to the Israeli foreign minister. Prime Minister Netanyahu, at the start of the weekly cabinet meeting, said any deal must include the release of what Israel believes are 133 hostages still being held in Gaza, and said Hamas's extreme demands were the obstacle, which is basically what I just said. Cindy McCain, children are dying as we speak. She's the director of the World Food Program. She warned in a new interview that children are dying as we speak in Gaza and called for greater access for aid workers while the war rages on. CNN's Jake Tapper on Sunday asked Ms. McCain whether Israel approving the opening of an area known as the Erez Crossing would help get food and other critical resources to Palestinians in Gaza. McCain called the move very important, but she warned that humanitarian workers must be able to bring resources to the area. Children are dying as we speak, and those are not dying, haven't died yet, are so emaciated and lacking so much in the way of important nutrients at this particular time in their life cycles. What I'll say on that is that once again, using children as an emotional wedge in this particular issue is cynical. It's absolutely cynical. The people that are responsible for this entire affair, this entire experience faced by Gazans, Palestinians living in Gaza, is the fault of their own government, which they support, which harkens back to a statement that I made a couple of seconds ago. If there are any civilians in Gaza, are there any civilians there? We don't know. We do not know. We don't know whether there are any civilians there, insofar as the people who live there that are not Hamas terrorists themselves or operatives for Hamas support Hamas. They've done so. They voted. They refused to remove them from their de facto government in the Gaza Strip. And so when you say, okay, all these children, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, well, everywhere in the world, people are trying to get food into Gaza. In fact, Americans did an airdrop there, several of them. They may be still going on as we speak. It's not like that food is not available. What is the disconnect? Now, certainly Israel made a huge mistake in hitting a World Food Kitchen tasker. In other words, that's a military word. But what happened was there was a mission there to provide food. And when the World Food Kitchen was moving away, they were attacked by an Israeli drone. The people that are responsible are no longer in the Israeli military. If they are, they're awaiting their court-martials because they violated their rules of engagement and just made a dumb mistake. I mean, it wasn't dumb. It was incompetence is what it was. I mean, that particular convoy, well, somebody said there might be a gunman in there and it might be Hamas and it might be this and it might be that, and they took it out. Wrong. I said, why didn't the World Food Kitchen or the World Food Kitchen, something like that. I said, why didn't they have their logos on top of the trucks? They did have their logos on top of the trucks. If you can find someone carrying a gun inside some van someplace, you can certainly see the World Food Kitchen logo on top of the truck. And why would you hit it? Well, because there might be Hamas terrorists in there. No, you wait until you have complete and total confirmation that that's the case. It's not like those people are going anywhere. If they are Hamas terrorists, they're going to try to escape the country if they can, but if not, they're simply going to do their work until it's all over. And so you could have waited, and that was just plain military incompetence. And that has hurt Israel in this. And frankly, I believe it should have. The only thing I can say is that the Palestinians and people who support Palestinians are overstating the issue in a lot of different ways, and they're using children to do it, and that's, like I said, cynical. This is the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Good morning. This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service. What is going on inside the Vatican? The Pope has made several statements in support of LGBTQIA plus ABC, EDF, whatever. Anyway, he has made several statements in support of those people that are a part of that particular movement. However, there's been something else. A highly anticipated Vatican document, it was released today, appeared to offer church conservatives a respite after a litany of liberal declarations by Pope Francis. This comes to us from the Washington Post this morning. It states that gender-affirming operations risk, quote, threatening the unique dignity the person has received from the moment of conception, unquote, goes on to denounce attempts to obscure the sexual differences between men and women. The 23-page document, titled Dignitas Infinita, or Infinite Dignity in Latin, amounted to a sweeping pronouncement on the human condition, marking the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights issued by the United Nations. It warned of the ills of poverty, the plight of migrants, and modern challenges to the concept of dignity, including cyberbullying. But its briefer sections on gender theory and gender-affirming care were perhaps the most anticipated. In recent months, Pope Francis, in conjunction with Cardinal Victor Manuel Fernandez, his new right-hand man and fellow Argentine, who now leads the powerful dicastery of the doctrine of faith, has approved a series of more inclusive measures, including the blessings of couples in same-sex unions with brief benedictions and the authorization of transgender people to be baptized and serve as godparents. Last year, Francis also told a younger transgender Italian that the Lord loves us as we are. Those gestures and others have stoked a powerful conservative backlash, prompting criticism of Francis in remarkably harsh terms. That's not heard of very much when it comes to Catholics criticizing their pope. It also led senior clerics in Africa, Eastern Europe, and Asia in particular to reject Vatican guidance on blessings for same-sex couples, despite caveats that they cannot share any similarity to the sacrament of marriage. The document, released today, was approved by the Pope on March 25th, does not undo those measures or fundamentally change Francis's more inclusive stance. It asserts, for instance, the Catholic Church wishes, first of all, to, quote, reaffirm that every person, regardless of sexual orientation, ought to be respected in his or her dignity and treated with consideration, while every sign of unjust discrimination is to be carefully avoided. But it does add context. It appeared to separate the need to provide outreach to transgender people from the act of obtaining gender-affirming surgery. It cites Francis as saying, quote, the creation is prior to us and must be received as a gift. At the same time, we are calling to project our humanity, and this means, in the first place, accepting it and respecting it as it was created. This, by the way, ties to something that happened last week that someone pointed out in a brilliant quote, that God created all of us in his image, And so what happens is okay, so if that's the case, then who are we to change that image? I thought that was poignant. I thought that made sense. It does. Now, I'm not the be all end all. I'm not some oracle. I'm just JD, your neighbor. Okay? I mean, people can believe what they choose, especially in this nation. People can believe what they choose and do with as they choose. I do draw the line at where children are being altered surgically to appear to be a different gender. That is not the right thing. That is just not the right thing. If a kid wants to make that decision after they're 18, after they're a legal human being, legal in the United States or wherever else, that's different. They can do with their body as they choose, even though that perhaps is at odds with liturgical determinations, as in this particular letter to Catholics around the world. But it's also something that is a part of essential freedom. You know, I don't necessarily agree with it. I believe that the actual issue should be treated instead of, shall we say, encouraged. In other words, gender dysphoria has to be the most cruel mental disability that someone can suffer. Every moment, everything, just basic human activities reaffirm that you believe you're in the wrong body. That's got to be horrible. It has to be terrible. And that those people are suffering and need to be spoken with from a standpoint of, okay, what are the realities here? What are the circumstances that surround your belief that you're in the wrong gendered body? And deal with that. If after all of that goes, and by the way, this shouldn't be a government project. This should be a project of parents and their trusted physicians and specialists. It shouldn't have anything to do with what's going on with political policy in these United States. So why does it? Why does politics infuse itself in there? Well, to continue dividing America for the sake of dealing with smaller segments of the population. In other words, castigating one population, part of the population that disagrees with these particular political policies, and using that to try to motivate others in other groups to vote for particular politicians. Again, it's a cynical abuse of people in general, and certainly the people of the United States. But, you know, this is where we live. This is how we deal with this. And it's awful. It's awful in my view. You're listening to The Wells Report. Thanks very much for being a part of this broadcast. Our telephone number, 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. You can find us on the chat room, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X, Rumble, And we'll have the broadcast up a little bit later on today on Patreon. And so it goes. We are bringing you the news hour number 2 next on the Wells Report. Stay where you are.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Hey, thanks for joining us this morning for the Wells Report. And make sure you share us with all your friends on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, Patreon. And don't forget to check out our Substack column, which will be coming up a little bit later on this afternoon. When you do all this, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give us those thumbs up. They are really important. Check the notification box so you know when we're on the air. And whatever you do, join us every morning, Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m. Central Time, for the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Good morning, I'm John David Wells. We report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. In short, we depropagandize the mainstream media. We do make commentary. Commentary is not news. We differentiate between news and commentary. Why? Because commentary is opinion, both yours and mine. Let's compare. Let's debate. You can do so by calling 817-379-2172. It's right there on the little crawl there. You can call us directly and we can speak. I'm nice. I'm really nice, especially if people disagree, as long as you're respectful and not being a troll. Those are the important things. You can also find us on the chat room, which is also available on Facebook, YouTube, X, Twitter, Twitch, and Rumble. And so President Donald Trump has clarified, not just for himself, but also clarified for the Republican Party. He is the de facto head of that party at this point. And he has made this abundantly clear. Now, you're going to see this statement in excerpts from various news organizations. I went through this story several different times in an effort to find out just exactly what the president said in context. And I found, like I said, several different versions of this story. And all of them were dishonestly cut, except for one. And when I say that we go around the world looking for news, we do. In this particular case, we went to Sky News in Britain to find out just exactly how they were reporting the story, because I was trying to find an honest rendition of the story. Well, they did not disappoint. In fact, what ended up happening is that Sky News put the entire statement up without editing, and it changes the entire feel, the entire meaning of what President Donald Trump said. So without any further ado, this is something that happened earlier with the president regarding abortion, his position, and the position of the Republican Party. Take a look.
Many people have asked me what my position is on abortion and abortion rights, especially since I was proudly the person responsible for the ending of something that all legal scholars, both sides, wanted and, in fact, demanded be ended. Roe v. Wade. They wanted it ended. It must be remembered that the Democrats are the radical ones on this position because they support abortion up to and even beyond the 9th month. The concept of having an abortion in the later months and even execution after birth, and that's exactly what it is. The baby is born, the baby is executed after birth, is unacceptable, and almost everyone agrees with that. My view is now that we have abortion where everybody wanted it from a legal standpoint, the states will determine by vote or legislation or perhaps both. And whatever they decide must be the law of the land. In this case, the law of the state. Many states will be different. Many will have a different number of weeks, or some will have more conservative than others, and that's what they will be. At the end of the day, this is all about the will of the people. You must follow your heart, or in many cases, your religion or your faith. Do what's right for your family and do what's right for yourself. Do what's right for your children. Do what's right for our country and vote. So important to vote. At the end of the day, it's all about will of the people. That's where we are right now, and that's what we want, the will of the people. I want to thank the 6 justices, Chief Justice John Roberts, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, and Neil Gorsuch, incredible people, for having the courage to allow this long-term, hard-fought battle to finally end. This 50-year battle over Roe v. Wade took it out of the federal hands and brought it into the hearts, minds, and vote of the people in each state. It was really something. Now it's up to the states to do the right thing. Like Ronald Reagan, I am strongly in favor of exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. You must follow your heart of this issue, but remember, you must also win elections to restore our culture and, in fact, to save our country, which is currently and very sadly a nation in decline.
That was the president earlier today, a video that was released. Now, you saw edits in that. Those were not done by Sky News. That was the original video in its full form. I did excerpt it to be able to get that entire statement regarding abortion on there, and you will see dishonest edits. For example, there was one on CNN where he talked about the opening statement. Then it was cut to "You must win elections." Well, that changes the entire tone of the story. That's propaganda. It's, again, not what you add to a story to make successful propaganda successful. It's what you leave out. And you're going to see all kinds of badly edited or edited for effect, political effect, on this particular story today. That's why we didn't do it. That's why Sky News didn't do it. But in order to find that unedited video, I couldn't find it on Truth Social this morning. Probably just user error. But the simple case is that Sky News in Britain covered the whole thing. Now, why did I have to go to England to get it? Well, that's a question you need to ask in the solitude of your own mind. It's because, in my view, my opinion, it's because the mainstream media is trying to elect Joe Biden for another 4-year term, and they will do anything they can to make President Trump look awful. Do I say that because I'm a Trump supporter through and through? No, I'm saying that because you're not being told the truth. You're not being told the truth. And I want to congratulate Sky News for doing exactly that. That was a very, very good thing. Now, USA Today covered this story in print. And this is actually Fox News and their rendition of the story. Former President Donald Trump announced on Monday, today, that his position on whether abortion should be banned or not following the months of not taking a stance on the combustible and crucial issue in his 2024 rematch with President Biden. The presumptive Republican presidential nominee took to his social media platform last night to say he would issue a statement on abortion and abortion rights in a video posted this morning. Trump explicitly affirmed his support for in vitro fertilization. That was the part of this that didn't actually cover the particular story that we're covering. He also emphasized his support for states determining their own laws for abortion so long as there are exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. You will note that in our coverage of this story on the Wells Report, there are states that don't add that. And the president is now decidedly against those states and that decision-making. But this is something that the president is pointing out. It belongs to the states. The entire reason, the entire rationale for rolling back Roe v. Wade was to put the decision regarding this incredible issue into the hands of the states. In other words, returning to the states the power to regulate various things based on the voters of their own state, of their own homes. And that's the way the United States of America works. The idea of the Federal Republic of America pushing down policy on all the states is antithetical to the country that we live in. And so now you say, well, wait a minute, what about this national 15-week limit on abortion? What about that? That's a mistake. That is a mistake. The objective in all of this was to return it to the states. And then all of a sudden there are people saying, well, we've got to have a national 15-week limit because France does it. Other nations do it. Yeah, except they're not the United States of America. They do have federal republics. The government pushes down on the people whatever policy seems to be fashionable in the political era in which they're working. Well, okay, that's not what we do here. The Republican Party needs to back away from this 15-week moratorium, and they need to do it right now because it's wrong. The states will decide. And people, so famously said by Ronald Reagan, will vote with their feet. We've seen that. We've seen people in California looking at what's going on in their state and saying, I'm finished here. And they gather up their belongings and they move to Texas, they move to Florida, other states that are less intrusive when it comes to governance in their own lives. And that's exactly what's going to happen with all these other states, especially the states that don't consider abortion to be necessary in the circumstance regarding the health of the mother, or rape and incest. That's not going to work. That's simply not going to work. And so I think that President Donald Trump is doing a very smart thing here. He may not be a politician, but he learns, and he realizes that this is a loser for the Republican Party. It's been wrapped around the Republican Party and their candidates by the Democrats ever since this election season started. And so when you see the news cutting from the president's statements, his rationale to, and you've got to win elections, that's the lie that you're going to see in so far as the president being taken out of context. This gets back to the same kind of cherry picking of what President Trump says on a regular basis by the mainstream media. Not that President Trump doesn't create his own problems for himself. Okay, so in this particular statement, for example, President Trump, why do you have to bring in winning elections? What you're doing is giving ammunition to your enemies, and they're everywhere. They're Republican, they're Democrat, they're mainstream media. What are you doing that for? The issue is whether or not there should be a reasonable policy on this pursued by your perhaps future administration. It doesn't have anything to do with elections. And whoever helped the president with his statement should have known that and should have said, hey, let's stick to the subject. That's what I mean by having the president stay on message. Presidents stay on message. As we have seen with every president, some loose statement off the cuff becomes national policy. Why? Because the president of the United States is the national policymaker. And all those loose statements, the famous gaffes by President Biden, need to be held as such. In other words, this is national policy, which is why presidents of the United States and people who want to be president of the United States take teleprompters with them everywhere they go. Famously, President Obama used teleprompters in the middle of some farm somewhere in front of 15 people. Why? Because he had to make a cogent statement in his mind. He had to make a cogent statement of policy, and it had to be delivered well. President Trump keeps blowing it on these particular issues, giving ammunition to his enemies. He's got to stop that. He did it again here. By the way, the president also said that he would gladly go to jail regarding the issues having to do with his gag orders in various trials that he is currently dealing with. In USA Today, President Trump said that he would gladly go to jail in defense of his free speech rights, but appeared to stop short of crossing the red line set by a New York judge. Trump said is under a limited gag order He's under a limited gag order in the so-called New York hush money criminal trial that prevents him from speaking out about the people involved in the case. The missives were harsh and personal toward presiding Judge Juan Merchan, Judge Arthur Engeron of the civil fraud case against Trump and his businesses, as well as federal Judge Lewis Kaplan, who presided over a civil defamation case against Trump, but did not attack the witnesses or other court staff. Once again, is that the right thing to do? Probably not. Is that something that President Trump does? Yeah. Is it something he should stop? Yeah, he should. He should rise above all of this and speak directly to us on matters of policy in the future. Don't you think? This is the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Good morning. This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service. Telephone number 817-379-2172. Former President Donald Trump famously has posted a $175 million bond in his New York civil fraud case. And what's fascinating to me on this is Letitia James is now questioning the underwriting capability of the company that provided the bond. Now, I don't know this personally, but typically when you are in a position where you're in legal trouble and you have to post a bond, it's 10% of the bond money. So that would be $17.5 million posted to the company that then takes liability in case the person that purchases the bond runs out on it, jumps bail, etc. Well, New York Attorney General Letitia James is now questioning in a court filing if the bond from Knight Specialty Insurance Company has met New York's legal requirements. She said the company hadn't provided a certificate showing it was qualified to provide the bond. The bonding company is headed by California billionaire Don Hankey, a self-proclaimed Trump supporter who made a fortune through high-interest loans to car buyers with bad credit. James demanded the bonding company, or the defendants, which include Trump and his two oldest sons, demonstrate to New York trial judge Arthur Engoron that the company is capable of paying the money. Engoron has scheduled a hearing on the issue for April 22nd. So in other words, this legal food fight continues between Letitia James and Donald Trump on this particular issue. Letitia James was famously, and Arthur Engoron they were both famously reversed by a New York State appeals court, saying that the original fine of $456 million was excessive, reduced it to $175 million, which is still excessive, but that was at least within range of a bonding company to be able to actually post the bond. No bonding company anywhere has the money required to be able to post a $400 or nearly $500 million bond. And everybody said, well, Donald Trump doesn't have the money. Yeah, he has the money. In fact, Arthur Engoron, the court that adjudicated this particular case against President Trump, knows exactly how much money he has on hand, which is somewhere around $500 million in cash. And that's why they went for it, to try to break the president financially in the midst of all of this, and then added the caveat that you got to pay this before you can even appeal the bond, or appeal the case, which is completely wrong. It's completely wrong. And the New York appeals court recognized that and immediately ruled. Well, now Letitia James is saying, well, that bonding company, what if they don't have the money? And we need to know whether they can do business in the United States. Oh, I see. This is fascinating to me. The willingness of the left to reclassify whatever comes before them in a way to try to continue whatever mission they see fit at whatever time they see fit to do it. And so I look at this and I'm going, really? By the way, this happened not just here in the United States. It also happened with regards to the aid workers, the World Food Kitchen workers that were hit by Israel. They immediately fired the people responsible, the commanders that were responsible for that incompetent attack. But then a food worker says, well, it's not about accountability, it's the system. Oh, I see. So in other words, taking yes for an answer seems to be outside the realm of possibility for the American left. And so Letitia James and Donald Trump and all those other defendants in that case are involved in a spectacular food fight that is egged on by both sides, and you have the latest information on it. Our telephone number again, 817-379-2172, 817-379-2172. Coming up on the Wells Report, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has some amazing things to say about the people involved in the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol. And the mainstream media and the left and those people supporting President Biden are really exercised about it. Matter of fact, they're infuriated by his comments, and I'll bring those to you as we continue on the Wells Report for Eclipse Day. It's Monday, April 8th. Back with more in just a moment.
wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. I have been neglecting the chat room. Let me take a quick look at what's going on. Let's see. There was a news article out there, or at least on social media, that that someone, specifically Ukrainian President Zelensky, purchased a $20 million mansion in Florida. Mugwump came up and said, "Hey, that's false. The Florida home purportedly belongs to him, actually belongs to a couple who bought the property more than 4 years ago." I checked that out. He's completely correct. Mug is really, really good at fact-checking, and we appreciate your work, Mug. Thank you. He's fact-checked this broadcast a couple of times. I've always followed up on him, and in most cases, Mug is correct. Let's see what else. How many soldiers have died in Afghanistan since October? Make that August 31st, 2021. Thankfully, the answer is 0. Well, there's more problems than that. What about the Americans that were left behind by the U.S. military? That is a problem. And that's going to hurt President Biden. There's also something else that's going to hurt President Biden, and that is RFK Jr. Now, as we come to this particular portion of the broadcast, what I find interesting is the bias in the reporting on this particular story regarding RFK Jr. This is from USA Today. Listen. First of all, let me give you a quick paraphrase of the story. RFK Jr. said that reasonable people would say that the January 6th attack on the Capitol was not a true insurrection. That's what he said. Now here's the reporting from USA Today. Independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. argued Friday that the deadly January 6, 2021 Capitol attack might not have been a true insurrection, and said that if elected, he would appoint a special counsel to investigate whether the prosecutions related to the attack were politically motivated. It's quite clear that many of the January 6 protesters broke the law in what may have started as a protest but turned into a riot, said Kennedy, because it happened with the encouragement of President Trump and in the context of his delusion that the election was stolen from him. Many people see it not as a riot, but as an insurrection. The attack occurred, and that's where they end reporting the particular statement. The attack occurred when a mob supporting former President Donald Trump stormed the U.S. Capitol in an effort to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. It resulted in numerous deaths, injuries, and hundreds of arrests. Federal prosecutors charged more than 1,000 people for participating. Okay. Well, in this particular article, USA Today is putting itself in a position where it is arguing politically, using news as the context, and indeed leaving things out. So when you start talking about that, the entire mob is being referred to in this article as a collective. In other words, everybody there was trying to overturn the 2020 election. And if we're going to talk about what President Trump said in his speech before that occurred, then we're going to have to cover all things. First of all, the context was, let's go to the Capitol and show that we disapprove. That's left out of this story. Again, propaganda, leaving things out as opposed to trying to add things that are easily disputed. And this is dishonest. This is dishonest. Now, you report what RFK said. That's what you say. If you want to write an opinion piece on it, that's fine. Write an opinion piece. By all means, say whatever you want, but don't do it in the middle of the news. That's not the right thing to do. And then there's CNN's version of the story that goes something like this. Independent presidential candidate RFK Jr. said on Friday he raised the possibility the January 6th, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol was not a, quote, true insurrection, unquote, and expressed concern about the weaponization of government against those charged with crimes in connection to the riot. He continued, I have not examined this was the part that USA Today left out, okay? I have not examined the evidence in detail, but reasonable people, including Trump opponents, tell me there is little evidence of a true insurrection. That's true. USA Today, in their version of the story, call it a deadly attack. Well, there was one person that died during the attack, and that was Ashley Babbitt, shot in the face by a federal agent who believed he was under fire, if you believe the news reports. I haven't seen any of that information regarding the internal affairs investigation. Neither has anyone else. And I'm very curious as to what all of that would say if it was actually delved into. Perhaps RFK's call for a special investigator on it might show some detail on that. But there were no other people that were killed during the attack. And yet it's referred to in the USA Today story as a deadly attack. Well, it was deadly when someone shot one of the people that were taking part in the riot. The statement inaccurately, now this is where CNN begins to veer off course. The statement inaccurately says that none of the protesters had planned to overthrow the government. Even though some of the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers were convicted of sedition, it also repeated the long debunked claim that the rioters carried no weapons while attacking the Capitol, which Kennedy later said he was retracting when reached by CNN for comment. My understanding that none of the January 6th rioters who invaded the Capitol were carrying firearms is incorrect, he said in response to a CNN inquiry. In the statement, Kennedy called the January 6th attack, quote, one of the most polarizing topics on the political landscape. He wants to hear every side of the issue. He condemned the protesters who broke the law and Trump's, quote, delusion the election was stolen, unquote, while questioning whether political objectives led to the prosecution of January 6th protesters. There's nothing wrong with that statement. There's nothing wrong with that statement. RFK Jr. is saying, hey, we've got to find out. And we got to find out in a fair way. And he's saying that if he's elected president, he's going to get to the bottom of it. There's nothing wrong with that. I disagree with some of the things that he said. But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to say that he's wrong and he's spewing debunked claims and so on and so on. That's not news. That's opinion. RFK Jr. is running for the president of the United States. He has been uniformly rejected by the Democrat Party, which is no longer the Democrat Party. It is the Socialist Democrat Party. And RFK Jr. is not a part of that. He is a true Democrat, which represents most of the Democrat Party. True Democrats look at this and go, what are they doing? Well, that's a great question. Perhaps some votes in 2024, this year, in November, will answer that question. I certainly hope so. I don't know what they're going to do about the media. The media is guaranteed a free voice. That's true. But there is a differentiation between using that voice for information and using that voice to interfere with elections. The hypocrisy of the mainstream media that says, well, my goodness gracious, Donald Trump tried to interfere with the election with the help of Russia. And talk about long debunked claims, even by the people that were responsible for the actual investigation into Donald Trump. I mean, you know, when you sit there and you look at that, you go, what's the news media doing? Well, they're interfering in the election, all the while decrying that President Donald Trump interfered with the election with the help of Russia. Well, the people that are really screwing up this election are the people reporting on it, except, I dare say, in the person of this reporter who you spend a little bit of time with every day, which I sincerely appreciate. RFK Jr. is looking at this. He is looking at this from a political lens, sure, but he's also looking at this as a person who's saying, hey, wait a minute. This wasn't a true insurrection. It wasn't. Now, whether or not there were weapons carried into the Capitol grounds, I don't have any idea. That was a bad idea if anybody did it. I'm going to follow up on that during the next break and double check to see just exactly who were carrying weapons. I'm very sure that no one, if they were carrying weapons, opened fire on anyone in the Capitol, even though the person who shot Ashley Babbitt in the face said that he believed he was under fire. Now, that may be true. He may have believed that he was under fire. But if that's the case, where are the bullet holes? We don't know. Why? Well, because there weren't any kind of either there were no bullet holes found, or the people that were, quote, investigating what happened, the select committee for the investigation of the January 6th, they called it an insurrection. They didn't look for them either. If they had found them, that would be different. It would have been reported by now. And so what we have is we have incomplete reporting, incomplete investigation, incomplete knowledge that is being exploited by people who are trying to support President Biden or defeat Donald Trump or whoever the Republican would happen to be. Unless, of course, it was a Republican machine politician that would go along with the Democrats, because that's what Republican machine politicians do. They go along with Democrats. And you know that because there were two Republicans on that particular committee. Now, let me bring something else up about that committee. I have long said that it's not just Democrats that are trying to defeat Donald Trump, it's Republicans too. At the time, the Speaker of the House was Kevin McCarthy. And so he wanted, or purportedly wanted, to have Jim Jordan, Mike Lee, other people on that committee, but the committee refused to allow them membership. But then again, Kevin McCarthy didn't say, okay, we want Republicans on that committee that have a clearer eye than Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney. But they didn't do that. Once again, most Republicans, at least in Washington, D.C., work to enable Democrats as opposed to working on their own political agenda with the strength required to see it through, which is why I'm not a Republican. I'm not. I was. Not now. I'm an American constitutional conservative. I believe that the rallying point for all Americans is the Constitution and Bill of Rights. And so I advocate for those. Is that bias? Probably. Because I point out unconstitutional things in our news coverage. Does that make me biased? I don't know. Probably. But what am I biased toward? The founding documents of this nation. Is that an honest and reasonable bias? I would say so. But once again, that's not up for me to decide. That's up for you to decide. Whether or not someone like me, who stands for the Constitution of the United States and combats political bias in the news on every side, you have to determine whether or not that's valid in order for you to continue granting me your attention. And once again, I cover that. I put a check and balance in that, like our framers, by allowing you, indeed inviting you, to call me on the telephone at 817-379-2172 or go to the chat room on Facebook, YouTube, X, Twitter, Twitch, and Rumble and let me know what you think. And let me know what you believe. I want to hear it. Just like RFK. I want to know more about this, not less. I don't believe in the mainstream media. I don't believe that they report the truth. I believe what they do is slant the news to their political advantage. I'm not doing that here. I'm not. It's not the right thing to do. The right thing to do is to report the flippin' news. That's the right thing to do. So, this particular statement goes on by RFK Jr., quote, like many reasonable Americans, I'm concerned about the possibility political objectives motivated the vigor of the prosecution of the J6 defendants, their long sentences, their harsh treatment, Kennedy said in the statement. That would fit a disturbing pattern of weaponization of government agencies, the DOJ, IRS, SEC, FBI, etc., against political opponents. That's a real Democrat talking. Because the word liberal does not refer to leftist, progressive, socialist, anti-American fascists. Liberal refers to people like Thomas Jefferson. Liberal is someone who defends the freedoms and liberties of the United States and its people. However, that has been warped over the years, mainly because of the right's interpretation of what they were seeing and using the wrong word. Liberal is not the correct word. The correct word is progressive, or socialist, or communist, or socialist Democrats, which is what the Democrat Party has purported to become. That's because the real Democrats don't stop these progressives cold in their tracks, except for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. One can, as I do, oppose Donald Trump and all he stands for, and still be disturbed by the weaponization of government against him. His rhetoric, whitewashing the January 6th attack, mirrors some of the commentary coming from Trump and other right-wing figures, says CNN, referring to RFK Jr. In one news article, actually two, you see the mainstream media's bias against American freedom, against the right to assemble, all manner of other things covered in the Constitution and Bill of Rights. And you see them attack someone of a different political side than Donald Trump as being with Donald Trump. Propaganda is also a blunt instrument, and the nuance is lost, and therefore so is the credibility based on the inability to tell the truth on almost any given topic in the news. That's the way I see it. This is the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
This is the Wells Report. Good morning. John David Wells at your service. Speaking of people who speak truth, or at least appear to be speaking truth, I want to bring up Matthew Taibbi. Matthew Taibbi is an American author, journalist, podcaster. He reports on finance, media, politics, sports, a former contributing editor of Rolling Stone. He was the winner of the 2008 National Magazine Award for columns and commentary. So Matt Taibbi had some words on Republicans when he was asked why he doesn't cover the right more comprehensively. And his response was pure brilliance. Why I don't spend a lot of time on Republicans. Number one, there's an enormous army of mainstream media reporters already going after them from every angle, with most news organizations little more than proxies for the DNC, to the point where stations hire Biden spokespeople as anchors. Two, the Republicans have very little institutional power nationally. It's not their point of view that prevails in schools, on college campuses, in newsrooms where over 90% of the working reporters vote blue, and especially in the intelligence and military apparatus, which has openly aligned itself with Democrats. Even if Donald Trump were a threat, if he said were, he should have said was, even if Donald Trump was a threat to democracy, he lacks the institutional pull to do much damage, which can't be said of Democrats. Three, Democrat ambitions are significantly more dangerous to those of Republicans, from digital surveillance to censorship to making law enforcement agencies, globally as well as in our own country. They are thinking on a much bigger and more dangerous scale than Americans. I lived in third world countries. The endless criminal indictments of people like Trump and ongoing lawfare efforts to prevent even third-party challenges are classic authoritarian symptoms. The Republicans aren't near this kind of capability. Four, last and most important, the Democrats are being organized around a more potent but also dumber, more cult-like ideology. People like Yuval Harari and his transhumanist divinity concept scares me a lot more than Republicans. I was once undercover in an apocalyptic church in Texas. Ask your average Russian or Cuban what over-empowered pseudo-intellectuals are capable of. Oh, man. I have a pretty good record of picking dangerous phenomena ahead of the curve. I feel confident in this one, and that's before we get to the demographic class shifts in the parties. I referred to that as Now You Know when I reposted that, thanks to @April_Harding on X. I thanked April for this repeat of Matt Taibbi's answer. This is brilliant. Matt Taibbi hits it. He nailed it right on the button. Democrats have overtaken the things necessary to provide them with a future for their policy. Republicans have not. Republicans decry the Democrat influence in our schools, the intellectual indoctrination mediums that have become our national universities, but don't do anything about it. Sure, there are universities and colleges around the country that are fair and that they're openly Republican. There are. And people need to vote with their feet. In other words, they need to send their children to these universities that actually provide education as opposed to indoctrination. And they do. And they do. I've asked on this broadcast, why would anybody want to send their kid to an Ivy League school? I've reported on gigantic CEOs of gigantic corporations and entrepreneurs who say, I don't care if you graduated from an Ivy League school because your education is suspect. Suspect? Yeah. Ivy League education? No. I wouldn't put my kid through an Ivy League education. Wouldn't do anything of the kind. And the reason is because at some level, you got to have facts, not fancy, especially when you're spending $200,000 for a 4-year undergrad, for crying out loud, or more. You really have to have something that's worthwhile. And this, of course, gets to the payback by the American government of people that are getting useless degrees in these universities. If these degrees were not useless, these people wouldn't be crying about the fact that they owe $200,000 and can't get a job. University system failing is something that I've been talking about on this broadcast forever. But Matt Taibbi nails this. If you want to see it, you want to see my post on X, go to @TheWellsReport. It's right there, courtesy of April Harding. See, this is something the mainstream media is ignoring, except when it satisfies their narrative, their propaganda push for a particular political ideology. Citizen journalists outside the mainstream media That's all we have to depend on. Are these people qualified? Sure. Maybe not. But maybe so. How do you know? How do you know you're not being subjected to misinformation or disinformation? Well, you know it when you see it. You know it when you hear it. And you coalesce all those thoughts inside your own hearts and thoughts, and you make a determination. That's how you do it. And that's on an individual level. And the purpose of politics is to clump everybody together and get them voting a particular way instead of depending on the wisdom of the American people. And that is an error. Thank you, Matt Taibbi. Great job. I can see why you're an award-winning columnist and commentator. Maybe one of these days I'll get one of those awards. Nah. This has been the Wells Report. God bless you. I'll see you again tomorrow. Yes. Yes. That was a great show, even if I do have to say so myself. I like that one. Let's see. The Communist Democrat Party. They are the Socialist Democrat Party, Gary. There's no doubt about it. Let's see what else. Thank you, Mug. That's why I said supposedly in my comments, but I still haven't heard the criticism of Zelensky in Ukraine like we see for Israel. True. Absolutely true. There are people out there. Tucker Carlson criticizes Ukraine. There are a lot of people that wonder just exactly why are we involved. And those idiots that say we've got to get Ukraine into NATO. Yeah. Do you know what I ex-posted on that? What I ex-posted on that was this. I said, you only want Ukraine in NATO if you've always wanted to see a nuclear explosion up close. That's the only reason. I mean, Vladimir Putin makes it abundantly clear that that's a red line for him. Ukraine in NATO? They've already got Sweden and Finland. That covers the North. Western Europe, which is where NATO was born, covers them from the West. Then now what you're going to try to do is you're going to try to cover the southern part. Turkey's in NATO. They're on the southern border of the former USSR, former Russia. Now what you want to do is you want to get all these other Eastern Europeans like Poland, Romania, and you want to put them in NATO along with Ukraine. In other words, you want to surround Russia. And you're not expecting them to lose their freaking minds and start doing really dumb things instead of disturbing things, really dumb things. You are nuts. That, by the way, in case you're wondering where that rant came from, that came from Antony Blinken, our Secretary of State. What's Antony Blinken doing? Antony Blinken is trying to continue egging us on into this war between Russia and Ukraine. Sooner or later, Russia's going to get tired of it. They're going to get tired of it. It's just a mess. Anyway, that's something else for another day. Anyway, that being said, God bless all y'all. Take good care. I got lots and lots of stuff to do today, and I'm going to jump right into it after I eat a healthy breakfast. God bless you and yours. Take good care. Like I said, I will see you tomorrow